One of the strangest celebrations or holidays in Sweden is probably the one referred to locally as Lucia, or basically Saint Lucy's Day. It's celebrated every year on December 13 and is actually very popular. Schools will organize musical performances, people sing specific songs and eat pastries together. At the same time, most people either don't know or don't care what this holiday is actually about. Its deep Catholic roots is lost on most people, even though the symbolism is very clear. So what is the story of Lucia or St. Lucy's Day? Where does it come from? What are its origins and characteristics? And why is it, with the exception of Italy, basically only celebrated in Scandinavia? This video is a collaboration with my friend and colleague Dr. Angela Puka from the YouTube channel Angela's Symposium. It's a great pleasure and honor to work together with such amazing people. We've worked together in the past, as many of you probably know, and this year we're doing a kind of Christmas or holiday special here. Dr. Angela Puka is a religious studies PhD and university lecturer who disseminated academic peer-reviewed scholarship on topics like magic, esotericism, paganism, shamanism, and the occult. In the companion episode to this one, she'll discuss the historical links between Christmas and midwinter pagan festivals like Yule. So don't forget to check that out. You can find the links to her video in the description and of course in a pinned comment. If you haven't checked out her channel in general yet, then you should definitely go do that. Angela's work over on Angela's Symposium is simply fantastic. She's doing some of the best religious studies content out there. So definitely go support her channel. Check out the companion video to this one to find out more about Christmas and Yule and the celebrations and the connections there. But also just go subscribe to her channel for some truly amazing religious studies content. Every year on December 13, Swedes will gather to watch a performance. Either perhaps at your kid's school, in a proper opera house, or just on the TV, there will be a visual and musical performance of what is known as Lucia, or with the proper pronunciation, Lucia. Usually, a woman with candles of light in her hair will be leading a procession of other women, boys dressed as gingerbread men or Santa Claus, all holding candles while they sing songs associated with this particular holiday. This celebration of Lucia or St. Lucy's Day is a staple of the larger Christmas season here in Sweden. It's technically not Christmas or connected to Christmas, but it's sort of seen as part of the wider Christmas season. Christmas songs are sung during these performances, and it's just part of the holiday season. It's a staple, actually, the holiday season here in Sweden. But where does this holiday actually come from? Lucia of Syracuse, or Saint Lucy, the main figure at the center of the celebrations, was a Christian saint during the 3rd to 4th centuries in Syracuse in Sicily. Stories say that she came from a wealthy family, but at a young age devoted herself to God. When her mother wanted to arrange a marriage for her, Lucy refused, and after signs from God, the mother decided to follow her daughter's wish, and instead, on her request, gave the dowry to the needy and poor in Sicily. Another famous story also says that Lucia herself would go down into the catacombs with food for the poor Christians that were hiding there from persecution. This was, after all, during the famous persecution of Christians under the Roman Emperor Diocletian. Whatever the case, she was eventually reported to the authorities who arrested her. Later sources say that she had to withstand torture, among other things having her eyes gouged out before being killed by a sword to the throat. Saint Lucy or Lucia became a martyr and a saint of the church, and a day of commemoration for her developed over the centuries that took place on December 13th. Eventually, as we know, Christianity would spread northward and all the way to Scandinavia, where stories about the saints and their deeds were told, and their days of commemoration became popular here as well. The strange thing about this holiday, though, is that even though Scandinavia became Protestant after the Reformation, and thus basically did away with everything to do with saints and commemorating the saints of the Catholic Church, St. Lucy's Day, or Lucia, is still widely celebrated and very popular in Scandinavia. So why is this? What's going on here? Well, there could be several reasons for this, which touch on topics we discussed in various other videos about Christian appropriation and syncretism, as well as the general attitude towards religion in Scandinavia and the sociology of ritual. One of the most interesting and probably important aspects of this story is that even though the holiday clearly has Catholic themes and symbolism, aspects of the Lucia celebration might predate Christianity in the region. You see, when the holiday was established, the Julian calendar was used, and in this calendar, December 13th was the darkest day of the year, in other words, the winter solstice. This was before we changed to the Gregorian calendar and the winter solstice moved to December 21st or 22nd. And in many cultures, including Scandinavia, the winter solstice was celebrated in different ways. It was long thought that dark forces of the world roamed on this darkest day of the year, and people would stay up to guard their houses from those evil forces. There is often talk about something called Lucy or Lusseskärringen, an evil female being that would fly around almost like a witch on this particular day with her evil followers. The word Lucy survives into modern celebrations, but its origins is somewhat uncertain. Its similarity to the name Lucia or Lucia is interesting. At least the latter is clearly associated with the word for light, lux, in Latin. Indeed, the day was also strongly associated with light. Especially in the Nordic countries, winter can get pretty dark, and we only get a few hours of light every day. On this very darkest day of the year, it was important thus to, so to say, keep the light on by things like, lighting candles and so on. There is even some evidence to suggest that pre-Christian Scandinavians might have had a conception of a kind of female goddess or spiritual being of light that would be evoked or worshipped on this particular day. She was thought to bring light to this dark period of the year. The inquisitive viewer might have already started to see connections here. Saint Lucy, or Lucia in celebrations here in Scandinavia, is always portrayed with candles, with light, in other words, in her hair, and also functions as a symbol for bringing light into the darkness in modern Lucia celebrations. So here we might have another clear example of Christian syncretism. As Christianity spread to new regions, it often adapted to local customs and vice versa. In the case of Lucia, the celebrations of the Catholic saint and the pre-existing local celebrations of the winter solstice, which involved symbolism of light associated with a female figure, if this is true, this might have been syncretized in such a way. Just like with Samhain and All Saints' Day, the Church probably saw an opportunity to take an already existing popular tradition and give it a new Christian language and clothing. Over time, symbols and aspects of both were probably merged in different ways to create the celebrations as we know it today. This was a common practice and has been a common practice across history for Christians in their encounters with new cultures and local customs in different regions where Christianity would enter and try to convert the population. Similar things happen, as we said, with Samhain and All Saints' Day. Similar things also probably happen with Christmas, which again is what Angela is going to be tackling in her video. So don't forget to check that video out. There's a lot of misconceptions about Christmas and the origins of Christmas and how it's connected to Christianity and so on. So I highly recommend you go check out her video because she's going to explain it in a scholarly and proper way. So that you'll get a better overview of that situation. The first documented case of a Saint Lucy in Sweden, particularly with the imagery of carrying candles in her hair, is from the early 19th century. So some of these syncretic elements probably took some time to develop. And it is indeed in the last 2 centuries that the modern Lucia celebrations as we know it in Scandinavia has started to develop. And today, as we've said, it is a very popular and widespread tradition. It might have started in the western parts of Sweden, but has since spread to the entire country. On December 13th, everyone knows it is Lucia or Lucia. And like we said, it's really fascinating that this particular holiday is so common and so popular in Scandinavia of all places, where Catholicism has not been the majority form of Christianity for a long time. And celebrating the Saint Lucia is a thing in Italy still, which isn't that weird since she came from Italy. She was from Sicily after all. Although, some Sicilians might say that that's not part of Italy, but whatever, we're not going to get political here. And Angela actually tells me that the Lucia celebrations in Italy are pretty similar to the kinds of celebrations that we do here with the kind of procession and all these kinds of things. But at the same time, aside from Italy, as far as I know at least, it's basically only in the Nordic countries, in like Scandinavia, where this is a thing, which is strange, since, again, Scandinavia is a Protestant country, and of all the kind of saints and all these commemorations, why Lucia? So I think the answer partly lies in, well, it's probably very complex and there are different aspects to it. I think one important factor here is this idea that there might have been a pre-Christian tradition of the winter solstice that included a lot of this imagery and similar ideas that was then sort of appropriated and syncretized with the Christian tradition, which has sort of allowed it to continue. Also, the idea that Lucia brings light in this darkest time of the year, that whole sort of symbolism, which is one of the aspects that do go back probably to pre-Christian times, that seems to be something that a lot of people really resonate with. And also probably because it's just become a thing, right? Sometimes people do things just because it's a thing they do. There doesn't have to be all these complex reasons behind it. People just like to celebrate Lucia. And so that's, that's why it's become such a big deal in Scandinavia. I think there are different reasons and complex reasons like that behind it, while at the same time maybe being pretty simple. On December 13th, local schools will organize Lucia processions where one person, usually a girl, although this has started to diversify in the last few years, is chosen to play the role of Lucia or Lucia, and others participate in the procession behind her, wearing different kinds of costumes, but all carrying candles in their hand, thus continuing the symbolism of bringing light into the darkness. In this way, they will then sing songs associated with the holiday, talking about St. Lucy, St. Stephen, or just general Christmas songs. There are also more official national processions aired on national TV or performed in established musical venues. Seeing a professional group do such a performance can be a truly breathtaking and beautiful experience. I've been to a few of those kinds of performances or processions in a more sort of professional environment. And it's a really profound thing just to see a completely dark room just filled up with these little lights. And then, in cases where it's a professional choir singing these beautiful songs, it can be a really powerful thing. Sometimes the symbolism here can be a little unclear, right? Lucia and the candles and all that kind of makes sense, right? But what about people in this procession being dressed as gingerbread men and Santa Claus? Like, there can't be what's the connection here? There can't be any connection between that and this Catholic saint or any kind of pre-Christian tradition. And frankly, no, of course, there isn't any connection. But this shows you once again how traditions like this develop and change. There will always be adjustments made based on time and place. Like I mentioned earlier, few Swedes or Scandinavians really have any idea about the complex history and symbolism behind this actual holiday. They've probably heard about St. Lucy and know that the celebration is about her, but that is about the extent of their knowledge and interest also, really. For many, it's a day that celebrates light, which feels especially relevant in the darkness of the Scandinavian winters. But perhaps above all, and just like most rituals and traditions, it has a social purpose. Rituals of different sorts create a sense of order, regardless of what the symbolism or reason behind the rituals are. Scholarship shows again and again that rituals are performed first and explained secondly. We all have rituals that we perform daily, a certain morning routine, a certain way of brushing our teeth, etc. And we need those kinds of familiar things and structures in our lives. Especially on a social level, rituals and traditions have a very strong way of bringing people together, of making them feel like they are part of a group or part of a larger context. Celebrating St. Lucy's Day for most people isn't about commemorating a Catholic saint from the 4th century. It's about us, the traditions we create and take part in together, and how that gives our lives meaning and strengthens our identities, both individually and collectively. Again, don't forget to check out the companion video to this one by Dr. Angela Puka over on Angela's Symposium. I'm going to say this again, you should definitely go subscribe to her channel. It's some of the best religious studies content out there, especially if you're interested in these kinds of topics like shamanism and paganism, alchemy, magic, the occult and the esoteric. She's truly an expert in these kinds of topics and she covers them so well. So go check out her channel. check out the companion video to this one about Christmas. Let her know that I sent you. Thank you all so much for watching this video, and I will see you next time.